podium, just holding his Romapada Swami, we're looking at strategic planning and what's happening on the international level and its impact and how we can do more here. So let's give Maharaja a welcome for his hard work. This is fine. There are going to be a number of persons who will be addressing little parts of what we're doing here. So they all have their own little some of them have a little PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to try to go quickly, fasten your seatbelts, here we go. Each year we try to give you a little what's happening on the global level and some picture of how that will filter down to the local level and how that's going to affect you. But both are important, how we can give leadership to our entire society to move in better directions and make a better society. And the other is also important, how this will directly impact all of you. So there'll be some parts of both in this presentation. You all remember, at least those of you that were serving as temple presidents, remember the efforts we were making in North America for strategic planning. Things moved forward in a very nice way for some period of time. Maybe volume-wise more than what some temple presidents could handle. So we scaled down, and meanwhile there was something happening on a global level. And the global level was Rajvihari, 2007? 2006. Bhakti Vaibhav Maharaj was the chairman of the GBC Executive Committee, and there were some issues that he was dealing with as the GBC chairman, and he, in Paris, convened a group of devotees and thought, we really need to do something while we're still here, the Prabhupada disciples who had direct association with Prabhupada, because some members had left us. Tamal Krishna Maharaj had left us, and Bhakti Tirtha Swami had left us, and Chitar Swami had left us, and looking around the room, how long will the rest of us be around? We need to do something now. So we convened a special meeting of the GBC, which is in our bylaws to do that. And we all went to Italy and spent almost full attendance of the entire GBC for a special meeting. It was probably 20, 25 years before that there was such a meeting. But it was to plan our future. And some of you have heard this before, and time is of the essence, so I'll keep it very short. We understood that the first day that we didn't have a clear vision of what our role was as GBC members globally. We had some idea what it is zonally, but do we have a role globally, and what is it? Yes, we have a role, and we didn't know what it was. And it was painful. I know I didn't sleep well that night, and others. So the next day was, okay, what's the path forward at the end of the day? We had 6 committees that were key for going into the future and leaving something behind us. One of them was what you saw Ravindra Swarup Prabhu present, the unique position of Srila Prabhupada as our founder Acharya. And you'll hear a little bit more about it. Another was Shesha Prabhu, working with forming a constitution for ISKCON, because Prabhupada had said it so many years ago, and we didn't do it. So the committee was formed to create a constitution for ISKCON. No small task. Think about it. Want to write a constitution for ISKCON? Big task. And succession of leaders, expanding the preaching, lines of authority. Bhadri Narayan Prabhu and an awesome group of devotees worked on that. And so on. So we had these 6 groups, and we were supposed to meet during the year, coming up to the AGM the next year, 2007. So since that time, we've been meeting twice a year. We expanded to having a second meeting, and what you're seeing here is some of the fruits of that. And this is to update you where we are. So ISKCON is growing, starting from a seed and growing and sprouting, and the tree of devotional service. We know from Chaitanya Charitamrita that nice example. In October of 1977, that's just before Srila Prabhupada left the world, this is where we had centers, these portions of the planet. And moving into the present, these are the areas where we have temples or presence of ISKCON centers in active preaching. Notice that China isn't mapped out here, but there is preaching going on in China. So, what is ISKCON today? How many, this goes on its own. There's the planet Earth, and we have so many schools. This is, maybe by now there's more schools, and 272 temples. That's like official temples, not just preaching centers, but where there's installed deities, and what to speak of all the other kinds of outreach that go on. 95 restaurants, millions plus devotees, and 54 farm communities. And we started looking at the planet and thinking, okay, going out over another 25, 50 years, assuming we'll have more centers and more devotees, and what is that structure that we need to have in place that will take care of expanding the Krishna consciousness movement? So this is a photograph at the Temple, the Vedic Planetarium construction site. One of our GBC meetings, we all went out and had some picture taken, to work on strategic planning, building that future. And I'm going to call on Braj Maharaja who can come up and speak a little bit about, for the structure of strategic planning, there was an infrastructure group, these devotees plus some others that aren't in the picture. Borijan's daughter is not in the picture. So, Braj Maharaja is going to describe a little bit what the GBC strategic planning team have been doing for our society and for you.
We kind of hang out and take prasadam. And in addition to that, we have, well, the core group, the original group who met in Italy, in Paris, was Gopal Bhatta and myself, and along with the executive committee of the GBC. And then gradually we added, let's see, from left to right, there's Kashori Mataji, Lakshmani Mataji, myself, Gopal Bhatta Prabhu, Kamteya Prabhu, and Aniruddha Prabhu, the temple president in Melbourne, Australia. And in addition to that, there's, as you said, Lalita Manjari Mataji, and Rasa Kridaprayana Prabhu from the Middle East. We have conference calls twice a week for an hour. I just got off a call this morning. They start at 4 in the morning in LA, and then, depending on the time zone, go all the way to Australia at 9 o'clock at night. And our job is to keep all the work that is done during those two GBC meetings per year, where they meet for 5 days and discuss strategic planning, and to bring that work into the realm of action. It's a lot of work. There's 18 different committees. There's dozens and dozens of initiatives. So how to prioritize those and keep on nagging people. So, you said you were going to get this report by then. Is it ready yet? And because GBCs especially are very busy people. They have other services. A number of them are spiritual masters. Some are PBT trustees. So it's a job to just get people remembering to do the work that that generally they agreed to at one of those meetings. So we are constantly in contact with each other. I think we average about 2,000 emails per year, and we also meet by the grace of Slovas Prabhu. We meet in Los Angeles in his office. He very kindly kind of vacates his office for 4 or 5 days and allows us to meet in Los Angeles. We do that during the Memorial Day weekend. And then we also meet before and after GBC meetings. So it's an ongoing thing that we've been doing now for 7 years. And in a little while, in the presentation, we'll talk about some of those results.
So that's like the support structure, infrastructure that keeps strategic planning going. And I'm going to go back just a moment. there's ISKCON, we have various needs. So one of the functions of strategic planning is to identify what those needs are that will support the growth of ISKCON, and then make a plan that will help fulfill those needs to support the growth of ISKCON, make decisions, and then execute. Really simple. And this is our work in strategic planning. So there's a focus. We have, as he mentioned, so many different committees. We have very, very broad initiatives, and then with subsets of those are specific goals, and then subsets of those are action points to achieve those goals. So we find there some parts of this committee overlap with that committee, something like this little illustration, a jigsaw puzzle. How does it all fit together? Because we're a big society and different people. We want to, get people rowing in the same direction at the same time, so we can cooperatively move forward the mission of the Hare Krishna movement. So it takes a lot of energy, a lot of mood of cooperation, a lot of humility, a lot of good qualities. And when those qualities are missing, they show up, and we work our way through them. It's a nice exercise. So, what are the strategic plans? This is the central piece of this effort, and we're going to go through one by one these different, like balloons or circles surrounding the central objective here. We'll start with strengthening our foundations, because there are several committees that fall under this group. This is actually the work of those same persons that you saw the picture of before that Braj Bihari is part of, to divide in an intelligent, organized fashion. Then we'll go through little by little some of these other spheres that orbit around strategic planning. We'll start with strengthening our foundations and then going this way. So strengthening our foundations, as I mentioned, Shesha Prabhu and a number of devotees spending lots of time with very delicate and long-lasting, important work, developing a constitution for ISKCON. One of the sticking points is answering the question, who is a member? And there's lots of different ideas of who is a member. And enshrining that in a constitution has to be done very carefully. ISKCON culture. Where's Maharaja Swami in our... There's a whole group, Bande, is an acronym for... Somebody, you're part of that, aren't you? Yeah. So, a group of persons that are interested in promoting cultural presentations of all different descriptions that are Krishna conscious, and identifying them, supporting them, organizing them, encouraging them, expanding them, like that. Lines of authority, Badri Narayan Prabhu, and as I mentioned, a group that will touch on this a little bit later, just very moments, on, well, you'll see what it says. Very important work, and the trickle-down effect will come directly bearing upon all of you when it comes to following. We have a spiritual line of authority and a managerial line of authority. Then comes, what about the monies received by the spiritual line of authority? What does ISKCON want to do about that? But you can say something in a bit. Srila Prabhupada's position. You saw the presentation that Ravindra Prabhu made, and there's other parts to that as well. So here's the Srila Prabhupada's Position Committee. This first one is what Ravindra Prabhu has been working on. It says here it'll be released shortly. Ravindra, when will we be released? When will we have a copy of this available?
The plan is this, at the next GBC meeting, I'm given a draft of what is submitted. He's going to print it out and so
that's right.
That's right. Leaders there.
That's right. Fantastic.
Give us feedback and then one final revision of it.
I remember now, yeah. Okay. Thanks. So in addition, Bhakti True Swami is part of that committee. he's making films on how to properly worship Prabhupada's Murti. That's very nice. And Harisori Prabhu is offering up courses on Srila Prabhupada living Bhagavatam, and etc. These are some principal ones. And so, a group of devotees working on helping enshrining Prabhupada's unique position within ISKCON. Then, under this other lines of authority, just very quickly, how does one maintain clear lines of organizational authority without unnecessarily inhibiting the spiritual dynamics of the guru-disciple relationship? The committee convened and asked themselves several important and powerful questions. What does spiritual master simply mean diksha? And obviously it doesn't. It means also shiksha. And how does that play out in ISKCON? What's our teaching and so forth? How do these two lines of authority work? There's a spiritual line and there's a managerial line which Prabhupada gave us. And during Prabhupada's presence it was one line. And in Prabhupada's absence, it's not necessarily the same one line. So how do we, going forward in time, view these two lines of authority? As you know, there's a paper. Can we define some point of convergence or conversely divergence? How does it work? So there's a website, you can note it down if you like, where this paper is available and so many other interesting documents that are part of our GBC work to serve the Society of Devotees globally. And I'll just move on. So, going around that circle, building capacity for leadership. Team building. There's a little section I'll show you on team building. I'll ask to speak on succession of leaders, call on Badri to speak something on organizational development. Those are three: building capacity for leadership, and then the trickle down is regional leadership and organizational and environmental scanning. So, team building. I didn't make this PowerPoint, but Rajbi Hari kindly provided it, so it's some parts of it just, they go ahead without prompting it. It's a good PowerPoint. One of the most crucial elements of GBC's leadership mandates is team building, because this is one of the things that we consciously understood. While we work in our zones, that's part of our role. I mean, it's a major part of our role. But to go global, we have to work with each other. And the more we work with each other, the more we understand the strength is by working in teams. And so team building is one of those exercises that the group has taken up. Then, Tamara, succession. Come forward. Anutama, Tamahar, and I were part of a committee at some point in time. Jai Krishna Jai Krishna was the organizer or convener or facilitator of our group, and some efforts were made to develop a system for educating and preparing leaders. I'll turn it over to Tom.
Hare Krishna. I was asked to speak 2 or 3 minutes. It's almost impossible for most of us in leadership positions to even introduce ourselves in less than 2 or 3 minutes, but I'll try to do this very quickly. I want to talk a little bit about the succession committee, and maybe this will give you a little bit of idea of how some of these different committees, the kind of work that has been done. These are our members, as you can see here. We've had some others come and go, but this is our current membership. Next. Okay. Why is succession planning necessary? I have to say, I just think this sounds like something not really exciting. What's succession planning? I think if you look at these points, they're very obvious. Many of us are getting older towards retirement. Several of us have already left our bodies. There's a shortage of leaders almost everywhere. But usually in North America, at any one time, we probably need 2 or 3 temple presidents at any time in history. I mean, I'm not talking about the current situation, but it's always like that. When a need arises, when somebody leaves, what happens? We have a crisis. We scramble to find somebody to take that position, or we squeeze people into it, or we double people up, or whatever. Usually these are not good solutions because they're very stopgap, and it's more on the basis of crisis management rather than strategic planning. Sometimes they're insufficiently trained, etc. So we want to develop more of a culture of succession. It's more than just putting a couple things in place. We have to start thinking differently about how we bring in new leadership into the ISKCON movement. It has to be on all levels of leadership. It requires current leaders devoting time and effort. Romapada told me once that top companies and organizations, the top leadership will spend 20 to 25% of their time in succession planning. In other words, they're actually actively working on what will happen after I leave this position as CEO or whatever it is, and building the team behind them. We have to, back please. So we have to be looking for new devotees, and we also want to give opportunities for young devotees, new devotees, to come into our organization and add their talents. So it's very important. All successful organizations spend time on this. Next. Okay, what do we want to do? We obviously want to be consistent with Srila Prabhupada. We want to study best practices with other organizations. What the Succession Committee specifically is trying to do is provide systems, processes, and tools for an effective succession planning model for all levels of leadership. In other words, we as a few people on this committee, we can't provide the entire system. You can't say, oh, we need a leader here in Bulgaria and we're going to, produce it for you. Rather, we're trying to create systems. Help the temples, help the leaders, help the GBC to create systems of succession. And then teaching and training leaders how to develop the steps. And those steps are, it's a 5-step process. By the way, I want to give some credit. I think Jai Krishna Prabhu was one of the main people who helped put this together for us, provide these steps, and really, because he understood systematically how succession planning works. First, we identify candidates, and we are developing tools that we can give to leaders in the temples and the GBC of how they can help to identify and assess the capabilities of candidates. We have to find out, what are they missing? What do they need now? What are they missing to become a regional secretary, a GBC, a temple president? And then the training comes. How do we fill that gap? By giving the necessary training that's required so they'll have the skills to be ready to take on these new responsibilities. Okay? And that is done by first formalized training through classroom and other formats. In our first years, we spent a lot of time in training. We actually, at Newton McGrew and myself and others, were very involved in actually developing coursework. We developed a leadership training course that we rolled out over 2 years in North America. It was done in some other parts of the world. So we do have a certain amount of materials already now. And of course, there's more that needs to be developed. The second is in-field experience. It's not enough to just be theoretical. The devotees need to be able to start out with projects, work on temples, work on problems, work in departments, get this necessary experience of the ISKCON culture, the devotee culture, how does it work, and make some mistakes along the way to become effective. Mentoring. They also need to have training by senior devotees. Then, of course, comes deployment, helping to assist them in putting them in positions, and a system of ongoing evaluation. This is something that we've been very weak on. In ISKCON, we don't do much assessment. We don't do much performance review, as they say in business. Now, of course, this has to be done sensitively. We understand all of the concerns about devotees and our special issues, but still, we really don't do much ongoing evaluation. A person's in a position that can be there for 30 years, unless something comes to a huge crisis, that comes up to the GBC or something, then that's the end of it. So that there needs to be ongoing evaluation on all levels. I'm almost finished. Okay, and for next year, what we want to do is, besides trying to put some of these systems in place, we are also going to pilot 3 specific projects where we can demonstrate the principles of succession planning. That'll be in Germany, Russia, and hopefully we're still working on it in Pune, India. So by the ILS in 2014, we want to be able to give a demonstration of of how the whole succession planning process was put into place. Thank you.
So back to, this is a marathon. Getting all this communicated, and maybe information overload. But one of the big, I'm going to call him Budri, one of as things started piling up and piling up and piling up of things that are important, what structures do we need in place to, let's say, when we have, instead of the number of temples that you saw, it's double or triple the number of temples. What structure should be on the top to support that? Should we have 500 GBCs or 30 GBCs or 100 GBCs? And then zonal configuration. What do the zones look like? Planning our growth before it happens. So that the Organization Development Committee was developed for that purpose, which a few of us here in the room are part of.
Are you ready? Do we have a laser pointer?
I mean, I need it just so I can blind somebody. I joined in 1970, and I remember that if we thought too much about something, if we got too involved in planning, the criticism was that you were trying to be the controller, and that you were getting in the way of super soul. So if we went out on Sankirtan thinking that the gas tank at E stood for eternal instead of empty, if we ran out of gas somewhere, oh, Krishna just wants to preach here. We forgot the quotes, he just wants to chant all day, And it didn't quite add up. I remember thinking that, I don't know, something just doesn't add up here. And one of the devotees, he was killed in a car accident actually, devotee didn't invite enough, very nice devotee. He wrote to Srila Prabhupada, and he said, what does surrender mean? Because we were thinking, you gotta be surrendered. And often we didn't quite get the question right, but Prabhupada would answer, and you could just tune in and figure it out. Prabhupada wrote back and said, surrender means to use your intelligence. Oh, that opened a whole world to us. And I remember that the joke was, why did you join ISKCON? I'm not into organized religion. Okay, think about it. So, Giriraj Maharaj, it's sort of a seminal event. The last few days of Prabhupada's presence with us, he called Giriraj Maharaj, his hero, his dependent, his dependable agent in Bombay. He called Giriraj Maharaj, middle of the night. Giriraj Maharaj came. He said, do you think this movement will go on after I've left? No, it's a very serious question. Prabhupada's, confiding and asking. And Giriraj Maharaj has told all of us at different times the same story. In his own innocence and sweet nature. He said, well, Prabhupada, as long as you follow your instructions and follow the regular principles, everything will work out. And said, Prabhupada leaned back. Prabhupada said, yes, and organization and intelligence. So sincerity with organization and intelligence. And of course, the Vaisheshika gave us that nice formula. There's no doubt Krishna's transcendental mystical power, and also some planning on our side. So we'll try to go through this quickly. This is just an update, go quick. And as it's already been stated, this is our gift to future generations. We have to think, we want to give our next generation the principles that Prabhupada gave us in a powerful, strong society, all rowing in the same direction. So, one of the things is to improve the nature of the GBC. And it's not on there for some reason, but there should be a job description, service description, and we're going to have a clearer picture of what it means to be a GBC. I'm thinking of the time factor. But first there has to be, here's what a GBC should be doing. A reasonable job or service description. Then, once you have that, then you can have regular assessments. Is the devotee doing the job? Is it actually fulfilling the service he's supposed to do? And if someone's falling short, take Vajranayan. Oh, what about this? What about this? What about that? Okay, fine, then we give him training. There has to be sufficient training to let the person come up to the mark.
If you're here's the mark. You have to hit the mark. If you're not hitting the mark, here's training so you can get there. And frankly, if they're not able to do it, give some reassignment. There's so many ways you can serve Krishna. Phone's ringing? Okay. Watch it be my phone. That would be justice in the universe. Ma, is it my phone? Alright, kill it before it multiplies. So regular assessment, training, reassignment. So we want a GBC that's up to the job and is actually performing. And also we've talked about bringing on new GBCs, new training. So this is the plan. And it's happening, starting to happen. Okay, next. We were talking about ISKCON's culture and ethos. This UMA paper is the ultimate managing authority. This will ultimately be a small book explaining the evolution and development of the GBC. What Prabhupada wanted the GBC to do, pastimes, quotes, events, how Prabhupada reacted to things. So what does it mean that the GBC is the ultimate managing authority of ISKCON? So that's something we want to give to the future. Whatever Prabhupada gave us, the flavor and direction and structure of ISKCON, we want to make sure that is carried on. So this ultimate managing authority, it's really quite nice. It'll give you all the history, how Prabhupada started the GBC, how he developed it, like that. Lines of authority, Romapada Maharaja spoke about this. If you don't have this paper, especially as temple presidents, when you have to deal with so many different gurus and how they should relate to their disciples, and there's actually we have a template now. And it's got different scenes, if this happens, do this, and it's accepted, this is GBC standard. So if you're being, how to say it properly, if the gurus are not dealing properly with the temple president, or the temple structure, or the disciples, you can say, Maharaj, here's the standard, let's talk about it. Similarly, if the gurus are experiencing, so this is a very important paper. So please get a copy. Please, you will find it an interesting and enjoyable read. And what they call it, news you can use. Please get a copy. If you don't remember whatever it was, the website, you can contact me. I'll send you. No problem. This Dakshin survey. One of the principles. The idea that everyone in ISKCON is under the GBC and it all fits together. That was a novel concept. Just as a side, I don't have a watch. Just let me have a watch. No, but I want it so I can. I'll give it back, of course. You know where I did it. Thanks. Nothing's easy in this world. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Prabhupada was in Detroit. The airport was completely packed. You can picture that, anyone who's ever been there when Prabhupada came to an airport. Devotees sprinkling flower petals and, rose water and shooting prasadam and roaring kirtan. You're talking about 10 mridungas and 25 pairs of kartals and everyone's offering their dandavats and, chanting the whole, and you've got the airport was shaped like a circle with all the hubs coming in. And all the businessmen, they're trying to catch their next connecting flight. And they got, 7 devotees doing dandavats. So they were pushing on. It's a fact, I was there. They were pushing the devotees, and the devotees are, hey, you mundane cock, you can't do that. And the thing was about to explode. It was just about, it was going to be a fisticuff and just let it rip. Rupa stood up and said, all ISKCON devotees, please clear the terminal. The only devotee to get up was Srila Prabhupada. He picked up his little bag and he got ready to go. Everyone else completely shined on these drugs. But Prabhupada was thinking, I'm a member of ISKCON. One of my leaders is making an announcement. You're ready to follow. So this idea, one of the principles, once we've established the concept of Dakshin, here's how those lights, is it the Guru's private property? On one hand, there's an argument for that. That it's, given out of love by the disciple for him to use. But then again, if you think about it, that lifeblood of ISKCON, do we want to go to build the temple in Timbuktu? Is that the best use of Krishna's energy? Maybe it should go for this, or maybe it should go, and who decides that? How does it all work? So anyway, please take this survey. We want to know how you feel. Gurus are responding, disciples are responding, GBC members are responding. We need to hear from temple presidents. What do you think? It'll take you 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We'll quibble over it. He says 5 minutes, so thank you. Here's the website. Please look it up. It's somehow or other it got out on Sampraday's Sun, so they were all taking the survey. So now we had to get that out there. We're going to do genuine mix. So this is it's password protected. Please don't share this. Just take it yourself. But please take it. Otherwise, we don't know what you're thinking. We're not psychics. Okay, what's next? ISKCON in every town and village. It's already been explained a little bit by Romapada Swami. You've got 35 to 40 GBC members, and frankly, they're worn to a frazzle. You know, we're taking them out every 3 years. You take somebody out on a stretcher and bring somebody else. So, how is that all going to work? Zonal secretaries, national and regional councils, zonal configuration. How does it fit together? How do we push down? Share this so we have a shared support basis. So people can be happy and enlivened and doing their service properly. So this whole structuring is happening. Next. We have organizational structure. We have great ideas. If you go back and look back in some of the GBC resolutions and some of the ISKCON laws, there's great stuff in there. We were amazed. There's stuff that have discussed and resolved problems that it's now come up, but we don't execute on it. Anyway, I was thinking of it. Hey! Now you know what it's like to work with me. Be kind to the temple presidents. So we now have 2 executive directors, and we have divisional directors. Executive secretaries. I'm sorry. It's called the Secretariat, which I thought was a horse, but it's called the Secretariat. And of that Secretariat, there's different executive secretaries, there's divisional directors, Govardhan Prabhu, Gauri Prabhu. You know Govardhan from South Africa? And he's the African DVT trustee. The man is super qualified. He's like an advisor to the petroleum minister for South Africa. I mean, he's a really nice devotee, but expert at organization. You know, Gauri Prabhu from London, from the UK, he's a fantastic organization and vision. You've got Koladri Prabhu, who's I was joking how they have the Beatles and there's the 5th Beatle. He's for North America, he's really like a 5th GBC member. He does so much. You do not understand the amount of service that Koladri Prabhu does. This agenda, all the topics on this meeting, I mean, we gave the raw input, but he's given it form and shape and pushed everything along, so he's just fantastic. So he's also agreed to take on the service of compliance minister or director or secretary for the entire globe, for ISKCON worldwide. So these are extremely qualified devotees, and Govardhan and Gauri were just appointed, and Koladri also, just in Tirupati was officially appointed. So we're finally getting people in place to get the job done. I think we're almost done. What's next? Is that it? Membership defined and implemented, that's already been talked about. Sannyasi deployment. I mean, we have wonderful transcendental sannyasis, mounts, they're wonderful preachers, they're meant to wander hither and thither as they like. But they should also, did we vote on it? Hear about it? And it's now happening. Every sannyasi, now if you're someone like Romapada Maharaja who already has a full-time engagement, but other sannyasis, they need to take 2 months out of a year, at least 2 months, where they can be assigned by the GBC. You go to this place, and you go to Cuba, you go to China, you go to Africa. In other words, they're such a wonderful resource, but they shouldn't just be on the banquet circuit or go where, I know where the good Dachshund stream is, or I know where or just go on the fun tour, the nectar tour. Okay, fine. At least give us 2 months out of a year. Wherever we need help, and there's how many sannyasis? 95, something like that, 75, whatever it is.
88.
But 88, whatever, you got the idea. But if that resource could actually be directed where ISKCON needs help. Imagine that. So these are some of the things that are starting to happen, organization development. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. And your witnesses, I'm giving you this watch back.
We're going to run over time and not have time for questions, and that's too bad. But I don't know what else to do.
Can we just
Timekeeper? What?
Yeah, this needs to get the shortest part of lunch.
Okay. Okay. This is a flow chart where this shows you, this says executive directors, now executive secretariat, with 2 executive secretaries. You heard their name, Govardhan and Gauri Prabhus, and amazing personalities getting amazing amounts of work done. And down below them, they're supervising these persons. Kaladri is one of them. Kaladri is right over here. Divisional Director of Legal, Accounting, and Regulatory Compliance. In other words, what Kaladri has been doing for us, the global folks want Kaladri to do for the world. And we mentioned this previously. Those of you that were with us last year, you know. There's a Gauranga Prabhu from Chopati, Brahmachari, is taking responsibility for the Divisional Director of Devotee Care and the Divisional Director of Administration Systems Development. Now, what is a Brahmachari having anything to do with systems development? He's just a unique personality. He was trained in systems, he thinks like that. Who was saying this? He arranged, for example, in the Chopati temple that they have 480 cameras monitoring everything that happens in the Chopati temple. He has organized their kitchen down to details. He's a very organizational-minded person. He's agreed to take up one of these divisional director positions. They're all answerable, so they're not all populated down here yet, but it's like a secretariat, to the purpose of which is to assist the GBCs to take all the wonderful work that the committees are doing and making sure that the GBCs are performing. Just a little detail, amplifying something that I remember 8 meetings ago here in Houston, literally here in Houston. No, it was in Dallas. We spoke about accountability, systems of accountability. Good news, at this next AGM, there will be a system of accountability where those who are members of the GBC will be held accountable for performance evaluation. Good news, isn't it?
Yes.
Performance evaluation for GBCs. Yay! I think it's great. It's like way overdue. But guess what? It's going to then slowly filter down to the president level. Performance evaluation. Yay! So this is like things that are happening that we're holding ourselves accountable as the exemplary systems, which is going to take a while to get it together. But as it gets together, then we'll have a culture of accountability slowly, not abruptly, but slowly change our culture so that we know what we're supposed to do when we perform, and we don't do. Someone taps us on the shoulder and says, "My dear Prabhu, you're doing great in this and this." Where's Sanutama? Appreciation. Room for improvement, appreciation. I learned that from this course. So we'll follow that model, and if someone just isn't fit for that service, they can be resituated in something that's fit for their service, a culture of accountability. I'm an advocate of that one. I really think that's good. So, zonal configuration, this is the slowly changing map. This is a little picture of what organization development did. Look at the world growing into so many centers into the future. It's supposed to change and then show you the map of the United States. It doesn't show you the map of the United States. I don't know what's going on. We don't have time. So we made a map for the United States, and so not changing the present zone, who your GBC is, but going into the future, as we have succession, we want to conform according to something that's more contiguous zones, that kind of thing. Something that makes sense to a person that has common sense. What's this line? Special initiatives include these things. I'm going to go fast because we don't have time. But something that's filtering down. There's a plan for having temple development seminars where temples that don't exist, how to grow a temple somewhere where there isn't a temple. Some discussion, Kaladri has been very involved in this, organizations that are affiliated with, but not officially ISKCON entities. As our society, as diversity grows, as we grow, diversity grows. And as diversity grows, how does something that's not exactly an ISKCON entity connect with ISKCON? So some thought in that arena, and this is Braj Vihari's area, conflict of interest, how to help through his ISKCON resolve, how to help move all of that effort forward. Devotee Care, this is one of the most popular groups in the entire strategic planning effort. A lot of devotees, something like 30 devotees from all around the world, are doing many, many things to help in many different areas. This is the hospice in Vrindavan. Of course, they didn't develop it, but it's under their umbrella. They have a regular publication. Revati Raman looks after that. Here's something that Badri Narayan Prabhu is especially championing, right behind him, helping. For those devotees in ISKCON who give their life to service within ISKCON, the GBC would like to provide a place where they can know that there's a place for them, or at least, unless it's all filled up, have a place where they can go, and temples can situate someone who's given their life to service in ISKCON and live the remaining part of their life in Mayapur, in a retirement enclave, that's what we're calling. And it's real that the master plan of Mayapur dedicated 2 acres.
3.5.
Excuse me, 3.5, that's why I looked at you. 3.5 acres. Convert that to dollars, and it's a lot of dollars. It's like, our efforts have paid for it, but, it's there. Badri's working on, with Sadhuj Prabhu, his architects, to make a plan, etc., etc. It's going to take some time, it's going to take some money, but it's on the way. It's, part of a subset of devotee care. The World of Action, Braja Vihari mentioned this one. So you get ready to say something. In February of this year, you see the numbers. 42 countries were represented. How many? What will you speak about it? Let's move the slide.
Sometimes I can imagine if I was sitting where you're sitting, if you're still awake. Raise your hand if you're awake. We may wonder, what would go into my mind is, well, yeah, but how does this ever affect me or my temple in Ann Arbor, Michigan, or something? Go blue. Well, this is one of, one thing we mentioned team building earlier, but one of the parts of team building isn't just a GBC working as a team, but it's literally trying to create a team throughout the world. And there's now one effort that's already taken place and 2 more that are coming up to really put that in, to bring that into a whole other realm of reality. And that is this first meeting of the ILS, ISKCON Leadership Sangha. We invited all the temple presidents, all the project leaders from all over the world to come to Mayapur. About 500 came. Some of you didn't. Very upset with you. But you'll get a chance to redeem yourself. And we had seminars, prasadam, sangha, sharing of ideas. Oh, you do it this way, we do it that way, and the whole presentation of the strategic plan in a way that you can implement things in your own temple. This is just one of the plenary sessions that was in progress. If we have a walking mic that works, do we? Or can we bring one over to Mukhi Mataji? Because I'm going to ask her to speak in a second. She was there. It was a great, we were actually impressed. We had 500 temple presidents and temple leaders came. So now this February, we're doing also something very cool. We're inviting, it's called the SGGS. We're inviting all the sannyasis, gurus, and GBCs. SGGS, Sannyasi, Guru, GBC, Sangha. And the whole idea of that is to get their input, their feedback as the topmost, senior devotees in our society, the direct, their feedback on the strategic plan, their feedback on how ISKCON should be going forward. And then, 2014, we had 500 for the ILS in 2012. We're planning an ILS in 2014. We are planning right now for 1,000 temple presidents, 1,000 Hatha leaders, and senior preachers. It's all come to Mayapur. We have at least a year in advance. So we're asking every single person in this room to just mark it on your calendar. Whatever, I'm not sure of the exact dates, we do have them, but in February such and such, to make sure that you're in Mayapur for that, monumental meeting. This is, as Srila Prabhupada said, so I am therefore suggesting that all our men meet in Mayapur every year, or at least sometimes, with all GBC and senior men present, discuss how to make unity and diversity. That will make our movement successful. If we are bunched up, we can never be broken, but when divided, we can become broken very easily. So this is an attempt to fulfill this request of Srila Prabhupada that we get together. So please make it a point. 2014 ILS. Mukhi Mataji, would you just give us, a minute or two of, your impression of the ILS in 2012? Is there?
Okay. Unplanned. Well, let's see. I was peer pressured into going. I didn't want to go. I thought too much time, too much money. I don't have either. And getting to Mayapur is too hard because you have to land in Delhi, and I hate the trip and everything. So I was just telling myself over and over why I didn't need to go, but Lakshmani wouldn't take no for an answer. So I had to raise my ticket myself. And I got the money, and then, I get there, and then I had to stay in a room with 3 strangers. I hate that, and I had to share a bathroom. But guess what? I loved it. I loved meeting these Bhaktins from Germany and the girl from Paris, and I had, everything was just so comfortable. The devotees were so friendly. It was very professionally managed, the building I stayed in. I actually learned a lot about, we want to have a guest house in Mantra. I learned about taking care of your guests nicely, and the program itself was so well constructed, and the care for the devotees was so well thought out. I was shocked that in Mayapur you could have this thing is a cloth tent. It looks like a castle, and it was really amazing. But what struck me the most was what you just read: unity and diversity. I did not know there were devotees from all these countries I'd never even heard of. We're so insulated in the U.S. in particular, I think, and certainly in Alachua, this little, fabulous rural place where everything is green and pretty, and, I didn't know all this stuff going on all over the world. So it was a real joy to see devotees from so many places speaking about the preaching that they're doing. It was extremely uplifting and enlivening, and the seminars were practical. They were, well produced for the most part. A couple of misses for me, but mostly hits. And I really came back very enlivened. So I would urge you, to figure out how you can do it and go just for your own personal enlightenment. Sometimes, especially as TPs, you have so much kind of what looks like mundane stuff dumped on your desk all the time. And this is a great way to give yourself a real spiritual shot in the arm. going for this program in mind.
Thank you. My name is Roger B. Hardy, and I approve of that. Thank you, Mookie. So please, whatever it takes, if you gotta, go out and sell candles or whatever, get the money together, and please make it a point that you're there in Maya for the Holy Dawn, fulfill Srila Prabhupada's request, and just have a wonderful time associating with devotees literally from all over the world. I think we had 80-something, well, we had so many countries, and we're 42 countries, we're trying to double it, that's right, to 80-something this year. Actually, ISKCON is in 103 countries right now, so at least we're trying to get 80 of them represented. And then, as far as all these other things that you heard presented, there will be, as the months go on, and I think we're really at the cusp of this, more of a trickle-down effect, that you'll start seeing results, because you're wondering, God, this has been going on since 2006, and we have a lines of authority paper and a nice flow chart, and what else is there? But a lot of these programs that are being worked on are right at the stage of really going in much more into the realm of action. And we would also request your help. If there are if you have some interest in anything that you've seen, please contact me or Gopal Bhatta Prabhu or Bhashmi Moni Mataji or any of the other devotees who saw that picture, and see how we can plug you into this so that you can also help us move forward. We really appreciate this. It's a difficult effort, but it's one that we're really determined. We're going on our 7th year now, and there's no question of giving up. There's just a question of moving forward and ultimately trying to create things in a way that really serves all of you as temple presidents and GBCs. Thank you. And Anuttama Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So just briefly, one of the specific issues that came up for this group was looking at, we know Prabhupada said, just like Prabhupada established temple presidents and secretaries, said you have responsibilities for leading, guiding your temples, overseeing the preaching, setting standards, etc. So the same way we know Prabhupada in his will, in addition to all of his lectures and all of his letters and all of his practices, in his very will said the GBC is the ultimate managing authority of ISKCON. And at the same time, if you ask, probably with the exception of every single person in this room, how relevant is the GBC, people outside this room would say, it's not particularly relevant, I'm not really sure what they do. I think we all hear this, or at least we know that's a lot of the perception. And oddly enough, we haven't done this, but I'd be willing to bet my non-gambling bet on it, that if we did a survey, what's your opinion of all the GBC members on an individual basis? I think 90% of them would get very top marks, maybe 100%. But if you ask collectively, what's your opinion of the GBC, I think it'd go from probably 90% to 30%. Now, having said that, I'll just mention that's about 3 times higher rating than the United States Congress gets. So 30% is pretty good in Kali Yuga. As a spiritual organization, we want to shoot higher than that. So one of the things that was identified was we need to help communicate who is the GBC, what is the GBC, what is the GBC doing, how is it serving the devotees, how is it strengthening society, what are the policies it runs under, etc. And who are the GBC members? Most devotees in ISKCON don't know who the GBC members are for sure. So in this capacity, the GBC, as part of the strategic planning, established a GBC Community Relations Office, which is being directed by Anuradha Dasi, who's based out of South Africa, travels a lot, spends a lot of time in India, works closely with the strategic planning team as well. And her role, in brief, is to inform the society about what the GBC is doing, put a face on the GBC, try to, as time goes by, provide some interaction, interactive source of information. And the most important thing to know, and it's done on the slide, but if you don't know this, write this down, it's a very easy address, gbc.iscon.org. gbc.iscon.org. That is the official website of the GBC. It is primarily an institutional resource site. It's not a news site. It's not changing every day. But There's a lot of very valuable resources there, including all the past resolutions. There's files and pictures on all the GBC members, where their areas of responsibility are. A lot of great, very useful information. As time goes by, we hope that becomes an even more interactive site, a more regularly updated site. At the very least, it's kind of like an online encyclopedia of almost everything you could want to know about the GBC and its functions, when the next meetings are, zonal responsibilities, etc. So that's an important source. And I'll just leave it there because I know we're tied up.
Yeah, we're just about to close. That's one good news. You're receiving some papers, and there's just 3 concluding things that I'd like to say. One of them is to help fund all of what you just saw and the ongoing work that we're doing. One of the methods of generating some funds for all of this is a GBC organized, actually Gopal Bhatt is doing the work and we just get the credit for it. Persons that wish to buy a place in Mayapur and have a place to stay when they go or when they retire or whatever they want to do, those that have the funds to do that. They're developing a MBT-like facility. MBT in Vrindavan, that kind of standard of construction, and there's land. There's whatever, 3.5 something acres of land, and they're Gopal Bhatt, who is in the process of planning. One bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, that's the next letter that's going to go out. So it was sent out to the NATP4, now you're getting a hard copy. If you know people in your congregation, or you yourselves, or somebody that you know somewhere that has an interest in having a place in Mayapur, contact, according to what it says on the paper, the strategic planning team representative. I think that's what the paper says. Probably says contact me. Huh? Okay, contact Jai Subhadra. If you know some people in your congregation or you yourself are interested in such a place, and then you'll be notified and make your decisions later. If you're interested, contact her. Persons in your congregation, contact her. And then you want a list of people that will just receive mail-outs. A place to stay, and will help fund all of this work. That's one thing. Second thing is, much along the line of what Maharaja Swami presented to all of you about work that he's doing in Cuba, something that I've been doing for the past 3 years is visiting China. 1/4 of the world's population, and it needs some people there need to know that we care about them, and they're connected to ISKCON. So in the course of going there, I wrote a little paper that says, these are my observations, and something I'd like from you is, I'll help supply Chinese books to Chinese people in your congregation or college students, so that, especially the college student, because many of them go back to China, they need leaders. And if we have access to Chinese students coming here to study, there's a really good opportunity to connect with them that the same facility doesn't exist in China, where there's freedom of speech here and it isn't over there. Read the paper. If you know somebody that is doing some college outreach, especially that can connect with, a huge number of Chinese students that are coming to America, let me know, because that's part of the service that I'm going to do to help the China Yatra. And the last part of our presentation is strategic planning in North America. What happened from the larger kind of North American, US and Canada effort was to come down to local strategic planning. Some temples have done that. Some temples have not yet done that. One of the temples that has done that is Atlanta, and a person who has helped them in Atlanta is Ajita Krishna, who came here for this meeting specifically. I'm going to have him stand up so you can see and he can speak a couple of words. But he My experience with Jita Krishna started in Minneapolis. He was working for Northwest Airlines, and he had a sangha of people in the area where he lived, and then Northwest sold out to Delta, so he moved to Atlanta. He started a Bhakti Vriksha program in Atlanta, became a member of the board of directors, helped facilitate their strategic plan for Atlanta, and it's been going for a couple of years, and he's willing to help facilitate strategic planning in other areas of the United States. Like, not do it for you, but be a consultant that can come to your place, help you understand what the procedure is, facilitate the procedure, and then go back to Atlanta. And here's some nice news. Because he works for Delta Airlines, there's no airfare involved, because Delta Airlines covers his travel. He can go anywhere where Delta goes, because that's one of his facilities. So you'd have to pay for his prashadam and pick him up at the airport and things like that. But otherwise, cost is the right price. And he has skill, but he has limited time. And so he would want to evaluate a number of things, like how serious you are and levels of commitment and whatever his other criteria are. So, one additional, so I'm going to ask him to come here and hand the microphone to Ajita Krishna Prabhu, disciple of Romapada Krishna Maharaj, and his wife is somewhere here also, probably in the kitchen, but she's an amazingly qualified person also. And he, Ajita Krishna, and some others have agreed to assist the North American GBC, North American Executive Committee, in looking towards developing our congregations, like, a congregation development ministry perspective, going in that direction. So they're going to have a little strategic, we spent an hour and a half, our GBC group, discussing what we would like our congregations to be in 3 years, 5 years. He's going to take that information and do a little strategic planning exercise and make some goals for a few people that will help to move congregation development forward in North America. So if you have some interest in that topic, speak to him. He may be speaking to you just to ask you in general, how's it going in your congregation? What are your interests and concerns? So you can get a feel of what's happening out there in North America. So Ajita Krishna Prabhu, and we're all done.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. There's a lot of work that's obviously being done at the global GBC level, and quite honestly, I'm overwhelmed by the amount of work that's already been accomplished. And I'm going to reach out to you for your help, essentially, in order to be able to make the North America GBC strategic planning work happen in your individual territories. At this point, we're starting with a very clean kind of slate. I'll leave my contact information with you, and I think to the extent that you're interested in moving this process forward for your area, let's get in touch and we can